Hello and welcome back to the She Gallery Show. Thank you for being with us today. You are with us live with a very special guest, Slangism. How are you?
I'm all right, doing well.
All right, cool. And you are with us live in the She Gallery Show, and you're welcome to join this conversation by calling us at 312-738-1060. Again, that phone number can be found on the bottom of the screen throughout the segment, and that's 312-738-1060. For those of you who have been keeping up with our seasons, we have been celebrating the evolution of Chicago-style graffiti, celebrating family resemblance, and here we have legendary Sling, who is one of the first generation's first to first, who many of you are familiar with. And we're going to get deep into some quick conversations because some of you may remember he was already here with us with Trickster for season 5. So we'll recap back. Thank you so much. Some of you may also remember that we also had Kane here a few seasons back, and Kane regulated, or he created a curriculum where he's able to teach graffiti and goes into greater depths with hip hop. So here we're going to start off with a little introduction, a little recap from our conversation that we had, or from Kane's conversation that he had with Kane.
Artistry, history, comic books, of course, is when it started. That's when I started the names and different styles of different artists, like Kirby's. I was into those earlier. My older brother, he collected comics. I would steal them or take them and go through those and draw and figure out the human anatomy. And then soon after that, my mother started picking up books of anything from how to draw automobiles on to how to draw animals, and I expanded, and it actually made my drawings from my imagination tighter, because really I could say that my training wheels was actually, as a kid, like I say, as a kid, innocently, I would watch TV and try to figure out how to draw something like Bugs Bunny or Popeye, and these are moving cartoons. We didn't have pause then. We didn't have the internet where you could look at a stagnant shot. I had to follow these images and catch pieces of it to collect all these parts of these characters and combine it to create my own character. And at that time, I was actually building my auto memory up as far as drawing to draw from my memory. And so when TV wasn't on, or when I didn't have access to a television because my grandmother and family was into sports and soap operas and everything else, I just go and draw it or collect those things that I practiced on for so long and create these stories and collages from my imagination.
So moving into your teenage years and starting to think about and look at graffiti, were there people that you were physically able to see painting graffiti in Chicago, or were those influences starting to come from somewhere else?
Coming up as a youth, I did a lot of drawing as well.
All right. Cool. So we just heard a little bit about Sling's background growing up and how you used your imagination very much to start creating your characters. You were earlier influenced by comics, and you used these to kind of create your own style. So before we jump into rhythm, I wanna talk to the audience a little bit about the name Sling. Usually you'll hear, or you'll know, writers will use the word one after their name, and that's to represent that they are the only one and you cannot take their name. But Sling does not do that. So for my introduction, I put Sling one, and he's like, Dulce, I never used Sling one. I was like, well, that's a first. Talk to us about why you don't use Sling one.
Yeah, Sling One, because around the time when we started, I remember being heavy influence when deciding to choose a name. I wanted a name that was something different from what I felt was out there. And back then, I think a lot of the earlier writers, their names either sounded more like they was MCs or DJs or B-boys, which it was all tied, interlocked in different ways. But now I wanted a name that sounded like it was more so tied in the graffiti realm. I had names that sound like I was either a breaker or an MC. Back as early from '82 and '84 when I was trying to figure out what name to go with permanently, because most writers, when we first all started, at a point, a lot of them changed their names, whether it was because they got in trouble with the law and had to change their identity to another name once that was on record, or, basically it was like just searching for a more original name. And I remember once we grew, or we evolved to that point where we understood that the ones and the twos were either from passed down names tied to, the culture. Like if you had someone, that you was teaching or a protege or something like that, then they would probably take the name two.
when I came up with slang directly, it was like, the only one. I wanted a name that didn't sound like it was from the West Coast or East Coast, but something that tied to the culture in itself. And since graffiti is abstracting, letter forms or the visual, end of the aesthetics of like abstracting typography. So the urban dialect word for abstracting the English language is slang. So I went through the Webster Dictionary for about 4 days back and forth after school to find a name, and I love the letter S because of the rhythm. The way that S is in a lot of my most, a lot of the most influential graffiti artists when I got in, guys who had been in before me, like, it's everywhere from Scheme to a lot of my favorite writers, Akbar, who wrote Stain from Chicago, who was originally from New York. And at my school, it was all S names. And, there were probably 3 different ones, like Sax, Stain, someone that had these S names. And I was like, you know what, I want something permanent and something that I could see myself being called by.
All right, and that's the end of slang. And slang mentions rhythm. And on Sunday we were having a conversation about rhythm. And we're talking about Dr. Bruce Perry and a conversation that he had with Oprah. Some of you may be familiar with Chicago's Oprah talk show host. And Dr. Bruce Perry says that rhythm is essential to a healthy human body and a healthy human mind. Every person can do something that has rhythm, and it can be as simple as walking, swimming, listening to music, dancing. And so when we talk with slang, he says that sometimes when he's writing, he feels like he's dancing.
Yeah.
So that has its own rhythm. And then Oprah says, when we rock babies to sleep, that's creating its own rhythm. And that rhythm helps calm us down. So they use this comparative with emotions, the emotions of people around us and how they're contagious. So you hold a baby that is crying, and this baby's crying. Now you're upset because this baby's upset. And that emotion became contagious. So then we start with a rhythm that is soothing to us. And if that doesn't work, then we slowly shift into a pattern that is regulating for the baby. So we create a rhythm. And the baby's response to our efforts shapes the style of the rhythmic soothing that we use. So we create that, and it becomes a style. And I couldn't help but think about this exhibition that we're working on, and thinking about the graffiti world that comes from the streets, that comes from people that were just looking for a place to be. Like he mentions in the introduction, he couldn't watch television. They were watching soap operas or sports. So he's like, well, I don't have a television, so I'm going to use my imagination. So slang created his own rhythm. And as we grow up, Dr. Perry mentions, we find our own set of regulating rhythms and activities. Everyone goes to their own actions to get back into sync, and that's to cure anxiety and frustration. So what Dr. Perry is saying, that the common element here is rhythm. Rhythm is regulating, and regulating is balance. And you use that in your letter forms. Talk to us about rhythm and graffiti and how they connect.
Well,
how they soothe.
Well, from different art forms that I was even a fan of, and from the early '70s when I first started drawing. One of the things you encounter after you really submerge yourself or involve yourself with, taking on anything that you're doing in a sense as a ritual, or everything that we have around us are things that we are really connected to in a vibrational, sequential manner. It's like the things that inspire us most. Think about music. Think about how the composition of how pieces go, how typeface all has like this, every letter, like usually from a set of fonts. So no matter whether it's Aramaic, Old English, every one of those letters in a sense look like they're almost married or born in the same family. And so, at one point,
resemblance.
Me and Trixie was really trying to figure out what made like New York's letters look so, New Yorkers, the old school New Yorkers that we were fans of, look so dynamic. And it was that consistent, like, rhythm. It's almost like an harmony. If you think about even just basic cursive or script. One of the things that one of, Ski Man brought to me, we had a heavy conversation when we first met about the shame of how taking script out of the academic system
Yes.
is really just not a good thing, because one of the things, one of the best things about identifying yourself as an individual is your own personal signature.
Yes.
And in graffiti, we've done that with the hand styles, and the hand styles is eventually what evolved into what we call like lettering styles, or what the style masters call, like, me and Trix coined it. At points we call it structure and style. And if it's one thing you can notice in anything of anybody's personal, signature, that is the thing that makes something really distinct or stand out, is that signature that looks like it can only be created by almost that one person. You personalize it at a point. I mean, we're all influenced. We're all creatures of influence, and influenced by so many things, so many different art forms. You're influenced directly by the music, your environment, and everything. So that these rituals, or these things that we had, became a thing where we would do it so much. It was in such a repetitive nature that we would break off into creating kind of almost other styles, or using other influences outside of graffiti. So we were basically playing around with that concept of structure, style, and composition, and using that, not just inside the letters, but actually composing the pieces. So it was, not to stray too far off the kind of subject, but it was
it's interesting.
just an
That's why you're
integral
here.
part. It was an integral part of how we developed, and then how we also expose ourselves to going in different directions outside of the box, if I can say that. But rhythm is like structure and style. Is all you think about it in the sense it's incorporating everything from the music, musicians, to, the way music is composed, to, even the frequency or the melody of the beats. You listen to people, how they talk about they really love the music, with lyrics or without lyrics. But when you got a lyricist or somebody with an extra special delivery or distinct personality, you're drawn to it even more for the most part. But also we can be pipered off into listening to some things that are kind of almost nonsensical and crazy, just because that drum beat or that tempo draws us in, almost like it's hypnotizing us.
And it is a beat.
We are attracted to rhythm.
And in birth, the sign of life is the heartbeat. Yeah. And then from there, you follow your heartbeat, and you follow your soul, and you follow your own rhythm. And that's how you become unique. And when you follow that rhythm, and you follow it without fear, then you truly do become unique. And I think that that's what's happened with first generation graffiti writers, and many artists that have stayed true to their own beat, right? Because if you're not true to your beat, then you're probably out of sync. So,
or distracted.
Get back on your rhythm, get back on your sync. So I just want to show you guys that Slang is a Chicago style, first generation style pioneer, but he really represents Chicago as an artist all around. And I just wanted to show you guys, we are on a Google screen right now, and I am going to type in Slang, Chicago artist. And you can do the same. And there he is. And I said, I don't need to ask specifically for any images, because there's just so much that we can see on here that Slang has done.
Yeah.
So how does this feel? Look at this. I love this.
Interesting, yeah.
This is so cute.
Yeah.
This girl, she's like selfie with legendary Chicago artist. She's like, I waited my whole life.
Yeah, I forget her name. She's a beautiful woman too. She just walked up. I was doing a live painting during the daytime. That ballerina in the background at the Daily Center. The city actually hired me to come out and paint live. So it ended up on television, but it was a lot of beautiful people that I knew that just were even there at that specific event that was going on, or just randomly there. So I had a few, I call them teardrop moments where,
how does that feel? She's like, I waited all my life.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
No, I always appreciate the people who You have to appreciate the people who not just appreciate the work, but really do see
and appreciate
feel and
the work.
Connect with the work, yes.
Like for real. Like first generation, early generations. Again, last episode I made the comparison of gangs and graffiti crews. How gangs is kind of like a business to take care of their own because they've been driven out of society. And then, writers find this as an outlet. It's a creative outlet, and it's an expensive creative outlet. So to get paint, to execute these productions, and knowing that they're going to be buffed, it takes a lot of passion. You have to have crazy passion. Let's talk about this crazy passion right here.
Yeah. Oh, okay. That's a good one.
This is a good example of this. So, we talk about graffiti. Graffiti gets buffed, and that happens. But this was a very well. Oh, man.
That's a very interesting one there.
Yeah, so let's talk about this piece.
Everybody from the ownership of the guys that own the Violet Hour, the collective that own the Violet Hour, there's so many, unturned, cups and positions in that whole deal because it was prematurely taken down because of some sort of inside politics with the company. And they rotate the murals. A lot of businesses, what I do find is a lot of businesses, they more so will present themselves as, patrons of the art or people who are into the art. But usually you'll find in time, like, half of them are, and, some really are not. They just kind of almost using you more so as a marketing tool or something to give their establishments that air or that connection with the environment, the community, or the history of how, right now, especially in the last 30 years, how the city's growing, and growing in the financial, separation. The neighborhoods are changing. Property is being exchanged. A lot of properties are being exchanged. Things are costing a lot. So, the people from the communities or the people who were the people who looked at graffiti in the sense of before it became the big, Banksy street art boom and everybody's in it for the quick minute. Back then, when we did it, for ourselves and our community. There was no idea of connecting it into like a monetary gain or anything. When I was younger, I was like, well, I'm going to be an artist in this realm. But when I younger, I like to be like a cartoonist, a cartoon animator. I ended up being a cartoon animator for almost a decade. From working at studios on into doing a lot of commercial work. But graffiti was like always all the art forms I had been involved in or evolved through, it was always like my center passion. Like I always loved just, going to some paper and making up something spontaneous and right there from me and for me. Getting back to that outside of clients is always like it's still really my main focus at a point. I like to just be able to, create things where the clients are not coming in and waving their wand and wanting to be our, vicariously live the art director dream and just hire me for, my imagination or me putting my heart or my messages out.
That's real dope, creating those boundaries to make sure that you stay true to what it is that you're doing. And I think that that's something really essential and important, and that's something that's really demonstrated in our roster. I think that all of the writers that we have in our roster are extremely humble and have stayed very true, and that's what makes this exhibition so very, very special.
I'm sorry. It's amazing, really.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the things we discussed. I don't know if I'm still on right now. But,
yeah, we are. I'm taking
I started watching
the crowd back over here so they can see who's on here.
For what you said, this is
what do you think about this roster?
This is one of the greatest lineups. This is probably the most uncut, like without a shadow of a doubt. Some of the most permanent graffiti artists from, because sometimes, it's like it's like anything. Like I was just saying about the clientele deal, where it's some understand, some kind of don't, some you kind of got to walk it through. Right now, what you have is a collection of like true undeniable pioneers, I call them. I named one of my shows Permanent because one of the things I got into, whenever I get involved in something, I don't look at it as like, this is just this point period in time. It's like, this is permanent. Things that I really involve myself in, being right now at this point 51 and drawing since I was 3 or 4 years old. When they came to my, when they have career day and they ask you what you want to be, I was like, just like, what do you mean what I want to be? I am an artist. No, I declare myself.
I already am. I'm 3 years old and I am a
we grow up. Yeah, in first grade, it was like, well, you want to be when you grow up? I was like, What do you
And
mean?
you know, I think
I'm an
that's a
artist
great
now.
key to happiness,
Yeah.
or yeah, that's it. Just being
Yeah.
true to yourself, never
Yeah.
losing that kid inside you. You know,
And, but that also, you know, though, not everyone, like I can say that because of my mother, is really, she encouraged me, you know, almost, you know, she declared me an artist. And I don't think, not
That's dope,
everyone
'cause not
has
a lot-
that.
exactly.
Not a lot of people have that. I
Yeah.
can say that. So the encouragement was like, no, given, like, at a point,
especially
you know,
coming from your mom.
yeah, being anointed by the person that's closest to you, the the protector, the head of the household, and then
Yeah.
also all the family members. So
That's
encouragement
cool.
plays a very big part. I mean, it's like one of the things we do in society. You think about it, like
And that's
graffiti
cruise and that's
itself
community,
was like,
exactly.
You know,
The
it's that
cruise.
rebellious art form. They looked at us like criminals. We wasn't being embraced and like,
Actually,
oh, we
like
love this
super
street art.
smart, like
Yeah.
in the thesaurus. You know, when we talk to Drastic in the thesaurus, coming up with these calculations and talking
Yeah.
to Trickster. Like, I think all of you guys are like stupid smart, like way above. You know what they teach you in school. I remember watching the documentary. Some of you may be familiar with Illmatic, where Nas and his brother, like the system just kind of shut them out, and the dad
Yeah.
said, "Don't go to school to learn.
Yeah.
Learn on your own."
Yeah.
You know, and that's where you really learn. You know,
Yeah.
being self-taught, being on the street. You know, books are always essential, and we have access to them. Back in the day, we didn't. So
Yeah.
now we have absolutely no excuse.
Oh,
I'm
we
gonna
have
take
everything
the-
at our fingertips.
Yeah.
Right now, a lot of people ask me, like, how do you do this or how do you do that? And, you know, these are the same people who are getting two different directions by using what I call a cell phone and tracking device. But we're all using it to get to these destinations or to find out what it is we want online or shopping or paying so much attention to Black Mirror and social media. But everything that we want, you can literally find anything on the internet right now. We're at the height of information sharing right now. A lot of that's getting distorted, but then also the beauty of it is everything is accessible. You basically can go on YouTube and find out different techniques of paintings from master artists on into newer artists, or even I've found that I've watched like kids 16 years old that have YouTube pages that I can actually learn something from. So all this is being shared by millions of people from almost every realm or, category of art or music. I'm pretty sure you can go, like, if you want to learn how to play the violin, there's somebody who has like 30 lessons of starting, how you can be introduced to the violin without paying all that money and going in debt with college or whatever. So I always call YouTube. I always
still
tell
don't
people
have a degree.
I go to YouTube U. I didn't.
Yeah.
Never went to college, but I went to YouTube U because I'm always
I went to
on
college
that.
forever, but I couldn't afford a degree. I was just talking to Trickster about that. Like, I really look up to him, and I think he's very smart too. And he's starting his school. He's doing all this stuff and working with it. I'm like, you have a degree? He's like, no. I'm like, me either. And I find that very interesting because some people would think that we do, but that's when you have a true passion to learn.
Yeah, and
when
you think
society
about it
pushes
on the
out.
other end. A lot of people who we were talking about that thing of being encouraged or whatever. You think about one of the things that we don't know how many geniuses we've lost in time of just certain things because it wasn't encouraged or because that
That's why we
enthusiasm
push
was
so
kind of
much.
pushed away because you think I met so many artists who started so much later because they weren't encouraged and their parents like, no, you're not going to be a starving artist. What their ideas or what their fear is, they would project that.
Fear. Let's go back to
fear.
fear. And I'm going to just go back. I know that I want everybody in the audience to visit our website and go to season 5. Trickster did such an awesome job hosting all of season 5. This was 3 years. We're going back to the future.
Been like the engine.
And here we're talking about fear, but let's just share a little bit about what's like.
We've been since he befriended me.
Can
We've
you
been
hear?
introduced through mutual friendships from artists that have ventured here from New York and other areas, and I appreciate it. Yes, Akbar, Stang Rock. Yeah, it is how we became introduced, and since I've been working
Oh, sorry. Hold on.
from New York and other areas, and
hip hop lasts so long. When they told us it wasn't gonna be here, it's still here. Look, we on your show.
thanks for being here.
From the
Appreciate it.
neighborhood.
3324. Sorry, guys.
Very esteemed guest. Again, Salim has been active in the community, being a producer. He also holds.
We definitely need to go back to that barber. Well, close friend for what? Where we at? 4 decades?
Oh, there you are.
4 decades, more than that.
Say 4 decades, but yeah, it's been 4 decades now, and you've definitely been like the engine. And the engine and the alternator to the entire movement in the city. So it's truly an honor.
Okay, give us a second. We have a caller.
And then you had a phone call. So
okay, thanks for.
Swing is saying that Trickster has been the engine to the movement, and then we get a phone call.
Which one? It's a lot of handsome young men.
There's 3 of them over here. Which one?
Which one?
Thank you for.
That was a good time.
That's all you.
The show, that's my baby boy.
Oh my goodness.
Which one? It's a lot of handsome young men.
There's 3 of them over here. Which one? Thank you for calling.
She's like, that's my son. That's handsome young man. You're like, there's 3 handsome
That's
young
all
men
you
out
there?
there. Which one?
That is my baby boy,
All right.
and he is just
I
a
think that's
wonderful
a
young man.
Well, thanks for sharing this. You're filling us with this energy. It's so great. We really appreciate it.
And Trickster's
And
thanking
I'm
her
very
for
proud of
coming.
him
And
and
she's
all of you
thanking
on
all
that
of you
show
guys
because you have made
for
hip
what
hop
you guys
stay
have done
alive
for hip-hop.
for so many years.
Boy, thank you.
Everyone else thought it was going to go away.
Yes, indeed. We've been blessed. I always said, I mean, as I came into it as a youth, we talked initially in our first episode about the phenomena, and as you just heard, Celine 500 just said.
So good. I know you couldn't hear that, but
No, but I remember that one was like one of those. But just everything worked.
it was
Time
so
to-
good. You guys just have to go on
Yeah.
and check it out. I know we
Right,
only have a couple of minutes.
And that was the first time all of us did one together. You know, me and Ty had did them together, but it was like an interesting like dynamic between. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
That
such
was
a
a great
beautiful
one.
thing watching you two grow up, you know, from being kids and developing this, and then being a part of this evolution show. We only have a couple of minutes left. You want to leave us with, I don't know how you feel about this roster, this movement, where it's been.
Well, it's you know I get a bit distracted with the with business and being very busy, you know, and then also not being busy, but at the same time, like shows of just as of now in the last, I'd say 10, 15 years since I came back, you know, I moved to New York at one point. It just seemed like as though everything had exploded. It was hard when I first started doing a lot of business type graffiti.
They're gonna cut us off the air in like seconds.
Oh, okay. Well, we got the best lineup. What you have done, though, is you laid out the best lineup of
you.
graffiti
Trickster
artists that
Pendo.
I have seen in the history of this city right now. Everybody on this list right now is without a doubt the quintessential artist of this movement. Everyone. And we were all part of a synergy, and everybody that I look at on that lineup right now, there's a lot of guys missing, and you know, like you said, there'll be more shows in the future.
This
but
is just first.
this right now is
first
just
of the first.
undeniable. When all they had to do is send me a text of everybody on that lineup, and I was like, I'm in. I don't care if that's outside, but that's a lot of love. And
Thank you.
thank
Much
you.
love. Much
Thank
love
you
to
for
you
having
guys.
me.
Thank you guys, and thank you to Trickster, especially Trickster, for taking a chance on me, for working with me throughout all of this. I know Trickster's like pulled in everything, and he's already involved with so much in the city, so I just couldn't be more grateful. And Pengo, and for bringing this roster together, educating me every single day. Like I already had my own knowledge, and I'm like a sponge and still learning, and it's just awesome. So thank you to the Epiphany Center, Can TV. We'll see y'all next week. Peace.
Peace. Evolution.